Hello and welcome to week 3 of Digital Literacy. Our week's topic is our digital footprint and personal branding. It's been a really exciting week talking with others about how our digital footprint is displayed, how we see it, how others see it. Is that the same or is it different? I really thought I had this one in the bag and this was going to be kind of an easy week. I've been working on my digital footprint for quite a while now. But I've learned maybe I don't know all the stuff. So this has been a really fun week to kind of interact with folks and see how they see it, and maybe learn a few new tricks to add to the bag. So let's get right into part 1, choosing somebody to research, somebody that I admire. This was kind of a difficult thing in the beginning. There were so many people I thought, oh, I could research and find out so much more, realizing I kind of already follow a lot of people on social media, and I've researched a few folks. But in the end, I think it was kind of easy to select. So I've selected the man who voiced the character for that individual right there. We know him as America's Dad, Thomas Jeffrey Hanks. So Tom Hanks is an actor, director, producer that I've looked up to for most of my life. I can remember some early childhood memories from the movie Big or the movie Dragnet as he was just getting started, and all the way through from Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, on to movies that we're seeing now, Castaway way back when, and so forth. It's been a lot of fun. He's not just been an A-list actor, but he has stayed on top in the directing, producing, and writing game. So when I started my research, I pretty much knew what I would find, I guess. Tom Hanks has a pretty squeaky clean image. That's why he's known as America's Dad. So it took quite a bit of looking to find anything on the contrary. He has a really good presence on the 3 major social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The one downside, or the one thing I did find with Tom, is that each of those outlets are kind of the same thing. Now, as I spoke about earlier this week in the group, we kind of want to tell that transmedia story, a different story with different outlets, so that the way that we view that content is how we display it. But overall, he's got a pretty clean image. I had to look really deep to try to find something that wasn't a squeaky clean story. Now, I will say this. The things I did find were always like, oh, he didn't sign an autograph, or he did this, or maybe it was a bad movie review. And of those reviews, they came from kind of non-credible sources as far as critiques goes, or from a pretty shoddy, controversial critic. I like to call this the good guy, bad guy effect in Hollywood. Take a moment. I want you to think about a time that you can remember Tom Hanks playing a bad guy. Don't worry, you don't got to pause it. I'll wait. So, did you think of anybody? Any times he played a bad actor or a bad character in a movie? It's really hard. I did some research because I couldn't remember one. There's only 2 times that Tom Hanks played a bad guy in a movie. And even the times he played the bad guys, he wasn't a bad guy. He was a lovable bad guy. Lady Killers and maybe Cloud Atlas. So when you think about America's persona, or his image or his persona to America, it's pretty clean. Now take someone like Gary Oldman, not to get too far off the tracks here, but when you think about Gary Oldman, you may think of him in Harry Potter, or maybe him in Batman, where he played that lovable, character. But most of the time, Gary Oldman's playing a bad guy. I mean, let's face it, he does play a pretty good bad guy. So now when you think of Gary, that's kind of what you associate with him. It's like, nah, he's kind of a jerk. He's a bad guy. And so then we go back with Tom Hanks. He's got that squeaky clean image. Kind of like Harrison Ford, who only also played one bad guy in a movie. But I digress. So let's come back to the main topic at hand. How is his present viewed online? So again, Tom Hanks has a pretty squeaky clean image. Now, this could be because he's got a really good publicist who makes sure that everything goes out is really, really good. Or it could just be him. I was doing some research on a character that he played recently of Fred Rogers, when we talk about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And a couple of videos and stories about that, it really talked about how people weren't giving Tom Hanks enough credit for his portrayal of Fred Rogers. And I think what that really boils down to is how we view Tom Hanks because of his digital footprint, also the way we see it in movies. It wasn't a large stretch for us to see him as this really great guy, kind of like Fred Rogers was for so many of us during our childhood. So again, when we look at that and his persona and how he portrays it, I think that he does a really good job of displaying who his brand is to the public. Someone who I think that we could all look to and sort of emulate if that's where we're trying to take, our brand. So like I said before, I thought I was going to breeze right through this. I've been working on my digital footprint for some time, whether that is social media or what people can find on Google. One of the big things I've tried to do is, one, not have a police record or tax fraud. And by the way, those are the two biggest things that'll get you found on Google or give you a public record. As long as you can sort of stay away from those things, it's going to be really hard for people to find out information on you. You can also use different websites like Social Shield and a few other Social Security, hiding programs online to help just kind of lock you down. And so I've been doing this for quite some time. Now, like always, I overestimated myself, thought I knew all of the things. Now, after going through all of the chat boards and the live meeting earlier this week, it was really interesting to see other people's takes on their take on social media. What I did find through some of the chat or some of the discussion boards is a lot of folks really don't want to have a public persona to display their art. They'd really rather keep themselves contained and only with their closest friends, not let a lot out of them, which I think can be good and bad when we talk about our digital footprint. If we're going to get a job or want to get hired, people look for our name. They look for our picture to try to associate with what we're doing. Now, a lot of these folks said that they would publish their art and all of their projects with an alias. And that's okay. I mean, we think of that like a screen name. But at some point, we have to actually expose ourselves when we become that big, which is an interesting thing I found during some of my research, not just of Tom Hanks, but some of other actors, directors, producers. I found the more popular you are, or the bigger your art is, I guess, in the public eye, really the more you can find about somebody in their social media. Now you get those really obscure type cinematographers, which you can't find anything on, and they keep everything locked down and quiet. But I think that the larger you grow, and the more you want to grow, the more you have to have this public face. So looking at myself, I really wanted to see how my brand was displayed. Of course, from the start, we all think, oh, we're doing it perfect, things are great. But I tried to go through every social media outlet that I had, or my name was attached to, as well as all the public records. Now, I did find some things that maybe I wanted to clean up, fine tune, get a little bit closer left and right limits as I move forward. But I think that so far I'm doing a fairly good job, at least displaying the message that I'm hoping to display. One thing that I like to talk about a lot to people when it comes to this type of thing, or maybe, for a company telling a story, is something called transmedia. It's not telling the same story in all the different outlets, but maybe telling different stories or a series of stories that you need to go to each outlet to understand. It's making sure that if I go to Instagram, I'm not posting a link or a big article that somebody has to read through, because that's not what people want there. People want to look at a really cool picture or a super short form video, right? And then as we go to Facebook, now that's the time to post an article or maybe, one of your own longer form essays. And then we can go to Twitter. Hey, that's the here, the now. I'm trying to get out what I'm thinking, maybe what's going on. I look at it as live headline news that we are sharing around the world very, very rapidly. And of course, we can dive into Tumblr or long form content, video content like YouTube and Vimeo, or if we're music producers in the MySpace scene, and a lot of other things like that. So as I went through, I tried to ensure that that is the format that I was sticking to, and for my personal brand. So I hope that people, when they view me, say, hey, look, he's a good family guy. He has a lot of interest in hobbies. But with those interests and hobbies, I take them very seriously, and that people can understand that I've got big ideas and I also follow them through. So as I continue, through the years, I hope to maintain the same enthusiasm and focus for my personal brand and not really stray. Also, again, consistently look for what's going on next. What is the next big thing? How are people consuming content, consuming information, and make sure that I stay up on top of those things. So again, I want to thank you for watching the video. I know this one has been a little bit longer than the last. And on a side note, if you haven't checked out any of the Gary Oldman movies, he's a really great actor. Again, plays a really, really good bad guy. So go check him out. But again, thanks, and we'll see you next time.